going to start with Fightful, Jeremy.
My first question is just for both of you. The training for this, Steve, you have a pro wrestling training, you've done matches. Did you find this one different and how much different? And then Alexander, you training for being part of it. How was that for you?
After you, Steven.
I mean, the training this year wasn't really any different. We took some of the stuff that we learned shooting the wrestling scenes in the first season and applied them to the second. No, it was just pretty standard. I don't know. I've enjoyed becoming better at some of the what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the fundamentals, like locking up and running the ropes and hitting the ropes and flat back bumping and just stuff like that. Like I've enjoyed getting better at that because those are the building blocks to actually, doing a good match, being able to slow everything down a little bit.
It was a very steep learning experience for me. Fortunately we have an incredible stunt team and incredible pro wrestlers behind us, but you can't really fake this. There's certain stunts where obviously producers don't want you to do because they don't want you to get injured. But when you're wrestling in a ring, there's only so many positions you can put a camera in. So Steven and I have to do everything ourselves. So if you see somebody back flipping off the top turnbuckle, that's me. Or you see Steven doing a suplex, that's him. So a lot of this training, it wasn't like so much trying to look good in tights as it was getting your body to a place to withstand the sort of impacts that we're going to have to withstand. And I got to say, like, this is truly the most pain I've ever been in shooting anything because my body wasn't used to this. I mean, Steven had some experience in the ring. I think they're nuts. I think they're absolutely crazy. It's an insane sport. And I love every minute of it.
Yeah. That's it.
All right. Brian from Pop Culture, you're next.
Hey, this question is for Steven. The first season of Heels aired nearly 2 years ago, so it's great to have a new season coming back finally. But how does this season stand out from season one?
Well, for me, it just felt like we got to shoot it sequentially, which was exciting. The first season had a lot of. No one cares about this, by the way, but the first season did have a lot of challenges. As we were still in the throbbing middle of the pandemic. So it was a little nicer to go back this year and just have a little continuity in terms of how we shot it. But I don't know. It felt this season felt a lot more personal. I think that Mike O'Malley did a really nice job of digging into, if we met the characters in the first season, this season we get a better idea of what makes them tick. And just some of the scenes that I got to shoot this year, one with Alexander really stands out to me just in terms of just the overall length of it, was something that I'd never experienced before as at any point in my professional career. So to go shoot like a 9-10 page scene, that's unique and special.
I think, the typical answer to that question is it's bigger and it's better. And it is that, but the truth is I believe it's deeper. These characters, you start to really understand them and you see the inkling of what this actually could be. And I think if you do see a season 3, God willing, you will see this on a national scale. And I think that's the plan, right? Is like that you see Jack really evolve as a human being, but also as a businessman. You see Ace really evolve as a human being and as a heel. And that's, really exciting.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Mike with PW Insider, you're next.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. So as much as this is a show about professional wrestling, I feel like it's also a show about trauma and how different people process it. Alexander Ace goes through an incredible transformation over the course of the season, both with physical elements and his emotional growth. And Steven, I feel like there's such a depth more to Jack Spade this season, and especially each of your relationship as you interact with each other and as you kind of bond over your shared traumas. Can we talk a little bit about what it was like as actors digging into that and getting deep into the psyches of Jack and Ace and figuring out the proper way to make this work to relay these sort of messages and this sort of story correctly, but also being true to the characters?
Go ahead, man. Oh, go ahead. Sure. Yeah, I mean, this to me all sort of comes down to this huge come to Jesus moment that both Ace and Jack have, I think, in the third episode this year, which is aside from flashbacks, the first time that we see the two characters together, and it was just such the way that Mike constructed the scene and the things that Jack had to admit. I had a real difficult experience personally as an actor, because I couldn't get the words out, because it was such there were moments both in the first episode and the third episode this year, one where I'm talking to Stacy, another where I'm talking to Ace, where I'm unpacking all this stuff that happened, and it's so messy, and it doesn't follow like a linear path at all, that it was incredibly difficult for me to learn the dialogue. I was so stressed both of those scenes, both those days. Alexander can speak to the latter one for sure. But it's nice to be able to just lay all of this stuff on the table and show everyone, the true nature of these characters.
Yeah, I think Steven said something so interesting last interview. He said, at the end of it, Steven's character Jack comes back home and it's an empty home, and he realizes that it doesn't matter. No success matters if you don't have people to share it with. So I think you really get to see these characters, and I wouldn't say that you forgive them, but you understand them, because you will experience the trauma with them, and you'll understand exactly what they went through and what they've been dealing with for so long. Ace has been one of my favorite characters I've ever played, because he is so flawed, and we as human beings are so flawed, and it's very easy to judge him at first glance. But the second you start to understand his past, you at least start to understand the villain he's become outside of the ring, and almost root for him to become the man he's always been destined to be. And I think that a path is paved to what this could be, both as brothers, but also as a promotion in this season, which is really exciting. And I get fired up just as a fan about what this could be, especially going into season 3.
Uh-huh.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Next up is
Thank you.
WrestleZone.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, man. How you
Good.
doing?
How are you doing?
Good. Season 1 had CM Punk, who was still retired from pro wrestling at that point. You have a similar situation where AJ Mendez is part of the cast in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't really been in front of the camera much, but she still has this almost like commanding presence with wrestling fans. What was it like having her around on set and just being another personality that maybe is going to draw a different sort of audience to the show that you're looking for?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was nice having her around, because Phil's so grouchy all the time. No, AJ it was wonderful having her around. I think that we've done a nice job of like dipping into the wrestling pool a little bit with AJ, with Phil, with Mick. It's fun, look, wrestlers want to be actors and actors want to be wrestlers. It's like a tale of oldest time. So it's nice when we get to have them come on, and it's nice that they've acquitted themselves so well. All three actors, people that I've mentioned, have all like thrown together really great performances. So that's cool.
Michael Waldron, our creator, is obsessed with wrestling. Obsessed.
Yeah.
And for him, it's always been the goal. And Mike O'Malley shares that passion, and Steven obviously does as well, and I do as well, that we want to do right by this community. Obviously this is more than just wrestling. It's about people. But it's an incredible world and an incredible backdrop, and we want to do justice to it. So whenever you have a professional wrestler want to be a part of this show, which we have so many calling us, it's unbelievable. And it's so humbling. it's great because it's truly like a stamp of approval that we're telling their story the way that they hoped somebody would, in our own way. So it's always an honor when you get somebody from, the real thing coming in to do something. And honestly, I think everybody who came from the wrestling community that came into this show so far has done such an excellent job. They're just natural actors.
Yeah. If you ever see Sting appear on the show, that means it's the last season, because that means that Michael Waldron, that means that Michael, like Michael's not saving it anymore. If Sting appears, that's our last episode.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Next is Jeremy with Fightful.
I was going to ask, how could you write Sting into it? What is the ideal Sting scenario for you guys?
We'll leave that to the writers.
I will ask, though, the camaraderie on set. Steven, you mentioned coming out of COVID with the first season, and it might have been a little stop-start and everything. Yep. And this season, a little bit more maybe cohesive. Wrestling locker rooms, can be hit and miss with a lot of things, but you've been in a few wrestling locker rooms. Stevens, what was the camaraderie like on set for season 2 of Heels?
We're very, very fortunate to in this big sprawling cast that we have, not an asshole among us. Everyone's really nice. I think Michael Malley, especially through the first season and through the second season, has done a really spectacular job of basically creating a family. We were really isolated in that first season, but to a certain extent, we were isolated in the second season. We people want to stay close to home. There's still certain protocols we were having to deal with, just in terms of keeping everyone safe and healthy and stuff like that. But the entire cast, me, personally and principally, I'm mostly with Allison and with Alexander. But the chances that I get to be with Chris and with Mary and with Alan and Trey and Robbie and Alice and we even managed to have a scene with our dad this year, although he doesn't say much during it. So, sorry.
Yeah, it really is. We really are a tight family, and we've all been through this process. A lot of us didn't know a lot about the world that we were getting into, so we also bonded through that. And Steven has really stepped into the shoes of helping educate on places where we don't know, simply because he has more experience in certain things like that. Yeah. So it's really just been it's been a dream. It's a dream job. It's a dream come true. Life's too short to work with assholes, and
that's it.
Really had great people, and we feel like we're making something really special. And I have to pinch myself every day that this is what I get to do for a living.
All right, we have time for one last question. Brian from Pop Culture.
Hey, Alexander, this question is for you specifically. One of the things I noticed about Ace in season 1 is he fell victim to kind of the backstage politics of pro wrestling. So going into season 2, and do you personally think that being in the WWE wrestling, being in pro wrestling just in general, is good for Ace mentally?
That's a really good question. No, I don't. Not right now. I think, I loved this show from the second I read it, because I've had the opportunity to work with some great wrestlers over my career. And, Adam Copeland, who's Edge, he was on Vikings, and Dwayne Johnson and I worked together when I was 16, and we still keep in touch. And I remember the stories that he used to tell me, both of them, about what would happen behind the scenes and how crazy it was when the things you had planned don't go as planned in the ring, and it's live. To me, that was always really, really exciting. But I think Ace wasn't in a place mentally to be able to handle that, because it's a very cutthroat business. But to be honest, I don't think Ace was in a place mentally to handle anything. If you told me if he was ready to go into the NFL, I'd say he wasn't. The guy had just experienced one of the most traumatic events a human being can experience, and he has refused to deal with it. So he uses all these external validations, sex and drugs and everything, to just kind of mask the issue. And that's what I think the beautiful part about season 2 is. People say, describe season 2 in one word, and my word is deeper, because I just believe that you really, you don't excuse their behavior, but you begin to understand it, especially with Ace. And in doing so, you end up rooting for them, because I think we all can see our parts of ourselves, maybe the parts we don't like as much, in Ace and in Jack. And it's great when they start to come to terms with that and lean into who they can become. And I think, God willing, there's a season 3, you're going to see them flourish on a level that you never have. But at least at the end of this season, a path is paved to a massive promotion and what these people could actually be.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man. Yeah, I appreciate you.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, everyone. That's our time.